Hello, everybody. I know we've got a few
Hello.
people here.
Hello, doctor.
Hello. Welcome. So we got just about a minute yet before we'll get rolling here. So thank you for everybody showing up. This is going to be a wonderful wonderful webinar. So I recognize some of the names on the list. So we're going to have lots of great opportunity to learn some stuff about nutrition and weight loss, and you guys are going to get to see a rare photo of me at my heaviest. So not a lot of those get passed around. So I don't know if you guys are in for a treat tonight or something that you're not going to be able to get out of your brain. So I hope it's minimally inspiring and maybe a little entertaining as well. So good. All right. Well, we are at 6:30, so let's go ahead and get going. So welcome to our lecture. It's Lockdown Slim Down, and we kind of came up with this idea. Obviously, because of what's going on in our community and in our world right now. So I've found over the years that when we're trying to make changes or improvements, that part of it is using our time as wisely as we possibly can. So, you know, so many times when we're trying to lose weight, nutrition is the big piece of the puzzle. So relative to weight loss, 85% of that is nutrition, 15% is movement. So you don't need to be doing a ton of things to lose weight. So it made sense to kind of use this lockdown, so to speak, to gain a lot of health and well-being. So what a great way to show up once this thing is kind of over, so to speak, with the new you, if you want to put it that way. And you know, the side kind of benefit is that you also get to build your terrain, right? You actually get to build your body and be stronger. So build your reserves and your resistance to the stressors of life all at the same time. So how could that ever be a really, really bad thing? So I'm excited to kind of get rolling here. The first thing I want to do as we kind of get rolling is share a little bit of my story. So my name, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Dr. Chris Cox. I'm a chiropractor here at Life Aligned Wellness Center. I'm part of the healthcare team where we do obviously DNA-based weight loss. We also do neurostructural chiropractic care, and we also have regenerative medicine. So you can see by the photos here, for me, my personal journey, I've been working with nutrition for about 25 years. And personally, I've had a lot of ups and downs, you know, just from physical injury, kind of being an athlete a lot of my life. But as you can see from the photo on the left, at one point, I was over 250 pounds. And some things changed in my life, and got things kind of more in alignment, so to speak, and was able to, within 2 years, drop and shed 60 pounds and complete an Ironman triathlon. So the reason I point that out is not like, hey, you know, let's celebrate me. It's more about, I understand. I know what it's like to carry, you know, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 extra pounds around. And all the challenges that go with that. So I'm a husband, you know, working with nutrition and health with a spouse, you know, there are unique challenges that show up in that department. And then I'm also a father. So I have, between my wife and I, we have 4 teenagers officially. The little girl that's in the picture there with me, that is my daughter. She is now driving. So she turned 16 recently. So give you kind of some context of how long ago that photo was. So not only obviously, as you can see, is that I've lost the weight, but also maintained it. And then the last thing here is our team, the doctors, myself and Dr. Calaba and Idalia, who's our metabolic coach. We've lost over 200 pounds. So there's a lot of wisdom and experience that goes along with those processes. So not only have we, like I said, coached hundreds and maybe even thousands of people at this point, but our own personal experiences and challenges in kind of learning how to navigate weight loss and how to do it for your lifetime. So so that's what tonight's about, is to kind of start to look at what goes on and why it happens and what do we do about it and all that kind of cool stuff. So, so I want to start by kind of leading everybody to just kind of imagine living to 70, 80, or 90 years of really high quality life, right? So the type of, pardon me, the type of life that maybe we dream about when we're younger, right? Which for most people means healthy, vital, high energy, active, you know, maybe playing with their kids or grandkids. And then, you know, what about the quality of life, right? So are you able to retire comfortably, enjoy vacations and travel and saving hundreds of thousands of dollars on medical debt, right? That's one of the largest expenses as we age. So, excuse me. So the first question to ask yourself, and we're going to kind of hit the, you know, kind of go dive into this issue from the get-go. Do you think that life is possible? And then do you think you're worthy of that life? All right. So a lot of times we can sabotage ourselves, you know, because of sometimes some self-worth issues and stuff like that. And having been through those types of things myself and worked through them myself and worked through those things with other patients, it's an important question to ask because it's a piece of the equation for people. So, and then the follow-up to that is, are you actually making the necessary investments in yourself and in your health and the resources necessary to actually get you there, right? So if we're not actually putting the time, effort, energy, and resources or money into trying to make changes, it's not going to happen, right? So everybody or most people have kind of heard the analogy, what's the definition of insanity, right? Well, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So if we're not willing to change or do things differently, how are you ever going to generate a different outcome? So it's one of the foundational pieces that we have to examine, that is where we're at what we actually want. And if it's not, well, are we actually willing to do something about it? And that's kind of a mindset that we have to be really, really clear about. Well, in order to realize those dreams, we must just simply first answer one very important question, and that's what is your greatest asset, right? And as you can see from the slide here, it's your health, right? And you know, in today's day and age, it's maybe become more and more clear because, frankly, when you lose your health, nothing else matters, right? Everything revolves around your health. So getting sick ultimately, you know, just completely changes what we focus on. So we've got to be really, really clear that our health is a very, very important thing, and you have to take care of it from the get-go, right? You can't just disregard it for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years and expect great health to just be waiting for you to take action, right? You actually have to do things along the way to make sure that that really happens. So tonight, I'd like to ask your permission to engage with me in important conversations that really delve into the heart of the issues. And I don't like to kind of mince words. I like to be really pretty straightforward with this kind of stuff. So know that what we're going to talk about tonight comes from a place of love and a place of experience that has led people through these challenges, and from a place of really knowing what it's like personally. So know that that's kind of where we're heading, and we're going to get really to the heart of the issue tonight. So there's a first few questions I want to discuss over the next few minutes as we get rolling. And I know this writing's really small. I actually didn't realize it until this moment. But the first thing is kind of what I already alluded to. If we're doing what everyone else is doing, what do we actually get? Right. Well, it's pretty straightforward. Well, it's exactly what they already have, right? If we're just doing things as we've always done them, how are we ever going to expect a different outcome, right? And as I said, that's the definition of insanity. You know, how about when we look at all the countries in the world, where do you think the U.S. is actually ranked regarding health and well-being? Well, the reality is we're actually 37th out of 39 industrialized nations ranked by the World Health Organization. Now, what's sad about this is not the fact that most people can't even name 36 other countries before they would get to the US, but how terrible that is. So there are 36 other countries that are healthier than the US. Excuse me. So where do you think the US ranks in regards to spending on healthcare? Well, we're actually number one. And in fact, we actually spend more on healthcare than the top 16 countries combined, right? So what does that tell you? I mean, this statistic alone is a little shocking, but what's most important is what does it actually tell you? And what it tells you is that the dollars that we're spending aren't necessarily seeing what's actually generating the outcome. So I just got a message here real quick. So maybe try your screen there. Yeah, I'm not quite sure if that'll work. Try that, George, and see if that works. All right, so I'll keep going here. So what about drug consumption? And so simply put, we actually take in the US more drugs than all the other countries combined, right? The US actually takes 75% of all the drugs in the world, yet we only make up 4% of the world's population, right? So this isn't about necessarily throwing more money at the challenge. This isn't necessarily about finding the next miracle drug, right? Because we take more of them than any other country in the world, and we spend more regarding healthcare. So ultimately, what it boils down to is what we're doing isn't working, right? The way we're operating, the way we're decision making is not yielding the outcome we're looking for. So it's not about the next pill, right? It's not about, oh, let's just throw a bunch more, funding at this system. We actually have to look at the philosophical basis of how the system works and why it works and why it's not working. So some more questions. So if being healthy is the primary goal, wouldn't it make sense to actually know what health is, right? Well, when we ask the question, what actually is health, right? Well, more often than not, what I get is the answer is how they look and feel. And while it's great to look good and it's great to feel good, but ultimately, right, it's a really poor measurement of a person's health and well-being. And the reason being is, how many times can people feel good yet not actually be healthy? Well, it happens all the time. I mean, heart disease and diabetes and cancer, many times those things exist for years before they show up with symptoms. So as the next one says, how you look or feel is it a good measure of your health? Well, the reality is like we said, it's not. How does cancer feel like growing, right? What about heart disease, right? The first symptom of heart disease is often a heart attack, right? So we know that people were not, perfectly healthy on Friday and had a cheeseburger Friday night and had heart disease on Saturday, right? It doesn't work that way. We're often asymptomatic for a long time, and same thing like diabetes, right? We generate blood sugar problems over years, sometimes decades, until we finally start to get symptoms, right? The fact is the disease processes are very slow and often don't create symptoms until they have progressed for a long enough time to produce some sort of health crisis that actually forces us to finally look in. Now, the World Health Organization defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease and infirmity. So there's nothing in that definition about how we feel, right? It actually has more to do with the whole picture, right? Not just, oh, I've got low body fat, right? Well, that's maybe a piece of it, but there's so much more to it than that. And that's part of what we want to start to look at today. All right, so the state of the health in the US, right? The stats are staggering. right? 80% of the spending on healthcare in the US is due to chronic diseases like heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. Excuse me. And most of these people are in or on the verge of something that's called metabolic syndrome. And we're going to talk more about that in a couple minutes. 50% of the deaths in the US are due to cancer, heart disease, and diabetes. And the question is, any of that preventable? Absolutely, without a doubt, right? Those are preventable diseases, meaning we can change the probability that those are going to occur. And this is a good time to really kind of talk about genetics, and that while genetics do play a role in a person's health and well-being, but they don't play as large a role as most people think. Meaning, how genes don't work is you don't arrive at 50 or 60 or 70 years old and all of a sudden you're going to get the, you know, the family cancer, so to speak. What actually does happen is that you might have a genetic predisposition for a particular type of physiology in your body. However, the only reason that gene is actually triggered or turned on is if the stresses in your environment are great enough to actually trigger the gene. So if the environment never exists, the gene never gets triggered. So, and what's also cool is that we've actually got these little kind of repair molecules that go along our DNA strands, and they actually recognize that that gene is turned on and it should be turned off. So it actually turns it back off again. But if the environment hasn't changed, the gene just flips right back on again. So you can actually turn these genes off if you have an environment that no longer turns the gene on. So, so the genetics play a role. However, environment actually plays a much larger role. So you actually have a fair amount of control relevant to that type of stuff. So, so the number one cause of bankruptcy is medical debt, right? And 79% of those cases were insured, right? And then disease processes are all pieces of the metabolic syndrome puzzle. So all of these pieces are part of that, right? Well, what's this metabolic syndrome we're going to talk about? Well, a lot of people have heard about it. It's also known as Syndrome X, but a lot of people also have it. So after kind of this workshop, I hope that you'll have a better understanding of metabolic syndrome. You'll know why we call it an epidemic, and you'll also exactly know what to do and save yourself and your family from it too. So we're going to go over kind of how to deal with this. So we're going to take kind of what is physiologically a really, really complex process. And you can kind of see from the image there, there's lots of really, really, really long chemical names. We're not going to go down all those biochemical pathways, but we're going to break it down so that you have an understanding of it and actually empower you to take control of your health and for that of your loved ones for the rest of your life, right? That's kind of the idea. All right, so what is metabolic syndrome? Well, it's actually a syndrome is a name that is applied to a group of risk factors that can occur together and increase the chance of heart disease, stroke, cancer, and type 2 diabetes. So when we see things like lipid problems and hypertension or blood pressure issues and diabetes and dementia and cancer, these are all things that start to show up together and are part of metabolic syndrome, right? Well, this metabolic syndrome was actually identified about less than 20 years ago. And it's about as widespread as pimples in the common cold, right? So nearly 1 out of 6 people have it, and literally the majority of Americans are on their way or on the verge of this. So it's reported actually that about 40% of Americans over 50 have metabolic syndrome. And the reality is that number is actually probably a lot higher than that. So there's probably a lot more people that actually are on the verge of metabolic syndrome or already have it. Well, while metabolic syndrome is not actually classified as disease, it's a group of risk factors that cause disease, like cancers, heart disease, diabetes, liver diseases. They also reduce a person's quality of life, and they cause premature death. So what are they? Well, the risk factors are this for metabolic syndrome. So being overweight, and that means basically a large waist size, right? High triglycerides, low HDL or good cholesterol, hypertension or high blood pressure, and then blood sugar problems. Right? So those are the primary risk factors When we start to see those are the people that are going to have metabolic syndrome or are on their way to metabolic syndrome. Now, why do these risk factors develop? Well, as you recall, if you remember, it's not about your genetics. So unhealthy lifestyle factors that cause obesity, insulin resistance, and hormonal imbalances, that's what does it, right? It's not, not eating McDonald's, twice a day for 7 days a week for 20 years that's what causes the problem. It's the lifestyle issues that create these issues. It's not the genetics. So the thing I want to kind of talk everybody through right now is what I like to refer to as the black hole that people get caught in. And I used to kind of sidestep this kind of conversation because it is a bit straightforward. But I can tell you, working with people for 25 years, I've found that often people don't know this process exists, and it's predictable. And I don't want to be the doctor that people see that didn't hear the truth and didn't know that they had some control over this process. So I like to kind of walk people through this so that you get a good look at really what's going on and you hear it, right? So this is where the black hole begins, right? So many times we're fed up with feeling a certain way and we go to the doctor, right? It's pretty common. So how do they measure health? Well, many people get yearly biometric testing for insurance, basically blood work, right? So while getting these measurements are great, I don't have any issues with getting blood tests. I think, in fact, it can be really helpful. The problem is what's actually done with them is the root of why we're so sick, right? So let me give you an example. If a 30-year-old says that they test with elevated blood sugar in their blood test, what's actually done? Right? Well, more often than not, the medical community gives you meds to lower your blood sugar levels. Now that's important, right? Because obviously high blood sugar can be very dangerous, but it doesn't actually get to the cause, which is what? It's lifestyle, it's diet and exercise. Your blood sugar is elevated because of diet and exercise or lifestyle issues, right? So not because your blood metformin levels are too low, right? That's not how this works, right? So now, here's where the black hole continues, right? So we control this person's blood sugar with meds, right? Now, what happens over the next 5 years for this person? Is this person healthier or sicker? Are they on the same meds as they were 5 years, 5 years down the road? Well, I can tell you, again, based on 25 years of one-on-one, knee-to-knee, face-to-face interaction, no. Almost always, they're taking more medications and are usually now complaining of being exhausted, right? Symptoms they didn't even have 5 years earlier. So now they're on more meds, and now they often have a diagnosis with things like hypothyroid. Excuse me. So the liver plays a major role in the conversion of thyroid hormones. And when the liver becomes insulin resistant, right, it becomes inefficient at converting these hormones. Well, the liver also produces cholesterol, right? When it becomes insulin resistant, it changes your lipid profile. So often increasing the bad cholesterol and triglycerides and decreasing the good cholesterol. Right? So what do? Right? Well, we go to the doctor again, right? How does our medical doctor fix this after your current blood test? Right? Well, you guys guessed it. You give you more medication, right? To override the physiology and actually force your blood levels within their normal ranges. Now, here is the major problem with this thinking is just because you can medicate your blood test into a normal range doesn't mean you're healthy, right? It's one of the biggest things to understand. You haven't done anything. You've actually just added medication to change the blood chemistry, right? You haven't changed the physiology behind why those tests are high or why your blood is showing those type of biochemical results, right? Now, again, what's the cause of this problem all along? Again, it's lifestyle, right? So the longer we stay in this type of dysfunctional metabolism and we continue to treat blood tests versus why the blood tests are dysfunctional, we drive our physiology into this metabolic black hole. Now you fast forward this 30-year-old to 50, right? Now we're in such a deep hole that you can medicate through the symptoms, right? There's enough drugs out there that can, you know, make you numb and take a depressed person and make them a little happier, right? But your body has simply just stopped working properly, right? And you can't drug that back, right? You actually have to look at what occurred, why it occurred, and how to help your body regain lost function. That is how you get out of this metabolic black hole. So we can't just take more medications and expect it's going to work, right? Oh, my thyroid's getting worse and worse. I need it to function better, so I'm just going to take more Synthroid, right? That doesn't work, right? The Synthroid is just an effect, right? There's a reason the thyroid's dysfunctioning, and we have to get to the foundation of the issue. All right, so the reality check is this, right? So those of you who think you're just fine and are in great shape because you're prescribed meds to control type 2 diabetes or cholesterol, blood pressure, or whatever it might be, you are simply deteriorating into this metabolic black hole we're talking about. Now, this metabolic syndrome is, as if you remember, it affects 40% or more of people 50 years of age or older. So this person has a cancer risk that is 4 to 5 times higher than others, right? So we're not just talking about, you know, weight loss and body composition and stuff like that. We're actually talking about your health and your well-being and what your future looks like if we don't get your body back to functioning normally again. So that's kind of the story. And I can tell you, I see this with people every day in the office. And I didn't want to be the person that somebody came through our office and didn't hear the whole story. So I wanted to build a picture so you understand kind of what's going on, what I see day after day after day, and we're asking the wrong questions. And how do I know we're asking the wrong questions? Look at the state of our healthcare, right? It's really easy to figure out that what we're doing isn't working. We've got to start looking at these problems differently, right? All right, well, what about the costs of having this metabolic syndrome? Well, the average annual cost per patient with metabolic syndrome is about just over $4,000. And this is direct out-of-pocket expenses, including copays, right? That's what we're talking about, between prescription medications and surgeries and all of the stuff that goes along with it. That's what we're looking at out of pocket, right? That's $4,000 a year that we're putting into diseases that are preventable. Right? So that's 4.2 times the average spent on the same age group, so the people who don't have metabolic syndrome. And overall, $4 out of every $10 is spent on prescription drugs for adults on treating metabolic syndrome. So it makes up 40% of the spending, right, that we're doing on prescription drug medications. Now, this just makes me sick, right? And it's part of the reason I changed my life, right? The New England Journal of Medicine actually came out a few years ago and said today's kids will likely be the first generation to live a shorter life than their parents. And it's mainly because 40% of our kids are overweight, and it's entirely preventable. So one of the catalyzing kind of factors for me in making changes was looking at that photo that I showed you guys up front of myself and my daughter, and realizing that's not the dad I wanted to be. I wanted to be the dad that could run around and play with them, and I kind of joke with them that I tell them that I wanted to be able to put them to bed at night and tell them I wore their butt out. And that was the driving factor. That's the relationship I wanted with my kids. So this stuff is so important. I mean, really, our life expectancy has gone up. This generation it's going to go down, right? We're actually not living as long because of these lifestyle decisions we're making. Well, there's a study that was done by the Lancet, which is a huge peer-reviewed journal, and it talked about life expectancy relative to obesity, and basically it's predictable the number of years of life we're going to lose when we're carrying additional weight. So the bottom line, right, as a culture, we're killing ourselves prematurely, and you have control over it, right? You can actually make those changes. Now, it's no secret that to anybody that America is getting fatter, right? I mean, I think most people kind of get that idea. You know, you can look back at photos, you know, 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago, and pictures of like all these people on the beach, and there was rarely an overweight person. But you go now, and it's 50, 60 plus percentage of the people are considered overweight. So it's, if you're not sure that that's the case, just walk around and look around for a little while. It's everywhere. So there's obesity trends that are put out. Now, this last data was collected in 2010. There is new data, I just don't have the slide, so I apologize about that. However, they've actually had to add an additional category in the last decade. So between 1991, the 93 to 95 statistics, the 98 to 2000 and 2008 to 2010 data, they actually had to generate 4 new categories of obesity within the US. So if you know anything about genetics, okay, obesity, you cannot change the human genome that quickly, right? You can't do it. So obesity has zero to do with genetics. It's literally not possible. And we're talking in the course of 20 years here, right? You can't change the human genome in 20 years. It is all lifestyle, right? So the things that we were doing, we're no longer doing, and there's new stressors and all that kind of stuff. So we're on this trend or this pattern that's making us sicker and sicker and sicker. We've got to stop kind of making decisions how we are making them and start thinking differently. So Time even wrote an article about it, right? The underlying cause of all the patients concerning metabolic syndrome all come back to lifestyle and the obesity epidemic that we literally have created ourselves, right? The fact is that 72%, based on statistics from the World Health Organization, of adults are overweight in the US, right? 40% of children are overweight, right? Now, here's one thing I want to be really, really clear. Acceptance of our bodies is one thing, right? Self-worth, self-esteem is one thing. But continuing to reduce the years in our life because of unhealthy lifestyle habits leading to obesity, they have to change, right? We can't keep going down this road and generating the dysfunction and the disease that we're doing that is all preventable, right? So the fact is this, you know, over 50% of the deaths are from obesity-related chronic disease, right? Between stroke and diabetes and heart disease and cancer, that makes up over 50% of the deaths are related to obesity-related diseases, right? Excuse me, the American Cancer Society said an estimated 1 out of every 3 cancer deaths in the US is linked to excess body weight, poor nutrition, and or physical inactivity. So these factors are all related and may all contribute to cancer risk, but body weight seems to have the strongest evidence linking it to cancer, right? So if you've read the studies, and you know, obviously we're in the midst of this coronavirus thing, one of the highest comorbidities relative to coronavirus is obesity, right? Is you are at a significantly higher risk with carrying excess weight around. So it's a huge factor in your health and well-being. Now, obesity in America, we have created disease at a faster rate over the last 3 decades than any other time in US history. And again, it's occurred because the American lifestyle that isn't healthy, and simply it's killing us. Well, how do we change this epidemic, and how do we take control, right? How, if you're told, you are how you look, feel, and act today, right? So based on the decisions you've made about your health in the past, right? So if you like how things are right now, congratulations, right? You probably have made some really good decisions for yourself. If you're not happy with the way things are, which is part of the reason people come to my webinars, is we can help, right? Is we're gonna have to do something different, right? The definition of insanity again. Thinking we're gonna be able to just keep doing what we're doing and drop 20, 30, 40, 55, 50, 60 pounds of body fat is not gonna happen. Things are going to have to be different. So what we do need, though, is a real solution, right? So the great news is we're actually going to talk about it tonight. This is what I've been doing for 25 years, helping people coach through that. Now, I was really out of balance in my life when I was carrying all that extra weight. But I can tell you, once I got things straight and figured out how to do it and why it was important to me and all those things started to come in line, right? And it absolutely changed my life, and it changed the lives of the practice members that I get to work with. So we're going to get into that as well. Excuse me. So I do want to bring up this really important study. It's called the EPIC study, and it was 23,000 people. And I do read a fair amount of research, and I consider it part of my responsibility to critically think and evaluate information so I can provide real answers based on data. And this particular study is unquestionable, mainly because the size of it is incredible. It's like 23,000 people. And here's what they found, is that by participating in these 4 behaviors, right? Not smoking, moderate exercise, a healthy BMI, which they studied 30 or under. Now, 30 is actually still obese, right? And having a healthy diet, right? Now that there's details in there, right? What you can get is this. You have 93% less of type 2 diabetes is prevented. Tell me that alone wouldn't change the face of healthcare in the US. If we eliminated 93% of type 2 diabetes, it would change healthcare. Right? It would also eliminate 81% of heart attacks, 50% of strokes, and eliminate 36% of all cancers. Right? I mean, these are not big benchmarks, right? It's not like you have to be an elite level athlete with perfect nutrition to make this happen, right? You got to not smoke. You got to move your body moderately. You got to have a healthy BMI. You got to have a healthy diet, and you can change the face of healthcare. So you can do it. So this is a great question, right? If it really is this easy, then why are we all not a healthy weight? Why has that not actually happened? Well, I can tell you that by working with people for over a couple decades, here's kind of what I've arrived at, right? Well, we don't make the choices that we know we should make, right? I mean, I would venture to say everybody here on this webinar probably knows something they could do better that would probably impact their health and well-being, right? Maybe the next thing, number 2, they're not sure what to do when we do decide to do something. We're fed up. I can't put my pants on anymore. I gotta buy a new belt. The shirt doesn't fit. That's it. I'm done. I'm going to change something. I'm going to go look on the internet. I'm going to find 16 billion articles, and I don't know how to do any of them. Right? So it's kind of the paralysis by analysis kind of idea. It's just there's too much data, and some of it's conflicting, and I don't know what to do, right? Well, number 3 is unhealthy choices are often easier and cheaper, right? I read studies. It's more expensive to buy a head of broccoli than it is to feed kids Happy Meals, right? You can feed 2 or 3 kids for the cost of a head of broccoli, right? So it's challenging, right? It's like, man, I know that I can go to Little Caesars and buy a medium pizza for $5. Whereas, man, to actually cook a healthy dinner that's balanced, it's more expensive than $5, right? So number 4, sometimes we tend to take care of others before ourselves, right? Oh, I'll be the one that suffers. I'll make sure my family's, got the good food, or I'll make sure my kids' lunches are packed, and I'll run out of time, and I'll just grab something at the gas station, right? So, are we putting others before ourselves, right? You have to look at this from a perspective of the whole airlines idea, right? What do they say? When the mask comes out of the ceiling and you have to supply supplemental air, what do they say? They say, don't put the person next to you on first, right? You put yours on first, and then you help them, right? You got to help yourself first. Number 5 is they don't have the support necessary to make the changes. And that can be either by themselves, right? Or maybe they have a spouse or a partner that is not supportive, right? I find that spouses fit into one of 3 categories. The first category is, heck yeah, you're going to do awesome. I'm all about it. I'll help you out. I'll help you cook. I'll do whatever I'm going to do, whatever I can do. That's number 1. Number 2 is, great job. You do what you need to do. Just don't ask me to do it. right? And then the third kind of spouse is antagonistic, right? It's like, well, I'm going to order pizza. You want some? Right? So we got to figure out how to navigate those things, and having the support network to really make the changes so that we can be more successful. Right? We've also learned that in a clinically supervised process, however, people tend to get dramatically better life-changing results. Right? When you have someone that's organizing and following up and leading you through this process, they get better results. It's simple as that. Right? Now, what do we do about it? What's the foundation here, right? Well, number one, it's all about your metabolism, right? So what is this metabolism? Well, metabolism, it actually must be triggered by your fat burning hormones, right? So you can't just reduce or count calories or points, right? You actually need to reset your metabolism. Okay, so simply put, why can two people eat the same foods and one lose weight and the other one not? Well, it's not just about the food. It's actually about our internal metabolism that has to be addressed. Well, here's what's interesting. In order to trigger your fat-burning hormones, you need to have a liver that is functioning optimally. So often our toxic state, which usually comes from years of not treating our body very well, prevents our livers from working properly or creating these proper hormonal balances, and throws our whole body out of balance and doesn't allow us to convert these or trigger these fat burning hormones, so you convert stored sugar, which is fat, into blood sugar so you can burn. So most people don't realize that they're just not healthy enough to actually lose weight, right? So you can kind of reduce caloric intake all you want, but if your body's not functioning in an optimal state, it's never going to happen, right? Well, so there are four major pieces to the Activate Metabolics program, right? Science, strategic eating, supplements, and support. So having worked with people, like I said, for 2 decades, I can tell you that there's a lot of pieces of this equation that have to flow together for people to be most successful. So relative to the science behind this particular program of how we help people, it's based off of a study that was done at Stanford that showed that people who ate according to their genetic code actually lost 2.5 times more weight than those who didn't. So in other words, not everybody should have the same diet, right? Not everybody should be having, Brussels sprouts and and tea, and some people should be having more fats and all that kind of stuff. So eating according to what your individual body needs makes a difference. It's statistically significant. So an important piece of this, and that's part of what this program is actually based on, is your genetic makeup, or your DNA. So part of this program generates what's called a DNA-based meal plan. So you can see on the graph here, this particular person's results showed that their diet should consist of 20% carbohydrates, 35% protein, and 45% fat. Now that information is really cool, but it means nothing and will do nothing unless you implement it. So that's part of the program, is actually understanding how to fuel your body and what makes up 45% fat. How do I do that, right? What do I eat for breakfast? How do I navigate the 7 major eating holidays of the year? All that type of stuff. Another part of it is we also get a DNA-based exercise plan. So based on how your body's made up, slow twitch versus fast twitch muscle fibers, I think most people understand in order to be healthy, you need to move your body. But how you move it, a lot of people haven't been told. And according to your DNA, you can actually figure out if you're going to spend 20 or 30 minutes or an hour moving your body, you should move it in a particular way to get the best results possible. I can tell you, not everybody's the same. So another important piece of this program. We're also going to use body composition analyses on a regular basis. So the chart is a little difficult, it's a little small, but basically what we look at is your composition, right? We're going to look at your hydration levels, your body fat levels, your muscle mass. All those things are going to tell me pieces of information about your physiology and if your metabolic age, which is part of this test, is functioning normal, right? There's people that come in all the time that are in their 40s and 50s and 60s, and we do their body composition analysis, and their metabolic age is 90 or older, meaning metabolically they're functioning like someone who's 90 or 95 years old, when in reality they're 40 or 50 years old. So lots of problems with getting their metabolism functioning properly. So this is part of how we make sure and track progress with people. I kind of make a joke when I first meet with people that I know that I could spend 24 hours with just about anybody, and they could come back 24 hours later 10 pounds less than they are today. And what would have happened? They would have lost water weight. They would have actually changed their composition. They would have just simply lost water weight. So this is a way for us to track those changes to make sure you're maintaining healthy body mass and losing the extra body composition or body fat that we don't want. Right? So that's the kind of the science behind the program: the DNA testing, the BCA, the DNA exercise, the DNA nutrition, all based on the simple understanding and studies that were done that showed us that people who move and eat according to their DNA do 2.5 times better. The next is strategic eating. That's just part of this program. And it starts with what we call the metabolic booster meal plan. It's a reduced calorie diet, low glycemic index, and anti-inflammatory. It's coupled with intermittent fasting. It's very engaging, very effective, and very healthy. And it generates amazing results within the first 40 days. So in fact, statistically speaking, most people within the first 6 weeks will lose 20 to 40 pounds of body fat. Now that range is different for everybody, right? I mean, if someone's got to lose 100 pounds overall, they're going to be closer to the 40 end. If someone only needs to lose 25, they're probably not even going to hit 20 pounds, right? So we just have to understand that those numbers of those ranges are independent upon or dependent upon each individual person. So, excuse me. So the metabolic booster meal plan is designed to help your body heal, and based on real food, right? So there's no prepackaged meals, there's no magic stimulant shakes or pills or shots, or we're not going to inject, pregnancy hormones into your body or anything like that, right? This is all based on real food, getting your body to function like it's designed to. So there's a time to heal, and during that time, not only are you going to feel better, but you're going to change your composition. So that's all part of the metabolic booster meal plan of your food timing, your food combining in order to make those things happen. The third piece is the tools. So these are part of the supplements that we utilize as part of the program. So there's 5 different supplements with the program. And I'd like to be really clear with the supplements is that they are not there. They're not, the reason people lose weight is not because of supplements, right? The reason people lose weight is because they're getting healthy and their body's starting to function like it's supposed to again. The supplements are there to support normal, healthy physiology. So the supplements are only there for the first 30 days of the program. Some people choose to take them longer than that. However, they're only required or suggested for the first 30 days. So these formulas help control hunger and sugar cravings. They stabilize blood sugar. They help your liver detoxify, right? Like we talked about earlier, if your liver's not functioning properly, you're not going to produce the hormones and enzymes necessary to actually stimulate the loss or the burning of fat as sugar. It limits the lethargic feeling, so helps with your energy level. Help you with your intestinal health, right? You've got to have a gut that's functioning properly. And it helps to make sure that you're getting enough nutrition, right? That you need sufficiency of your diet. So it's helped round out all the corners. So that's the nutritional formulas that we utilize as part of the program. The last and potentially and arguably probably the most important part of the program is the support part of this program. Excuse me. So you're going to text or email back and forth with the doctors or the metabolic coach daily during your first part of your program, right? So you're going to let us know the day of your program, your weight, and how you're feeling that day, right? We're going to respond within 24 hours and check in with you. If you've got questions, you can ask us directly through texting in the app. if it's a little more of an emergent question, you can call the office and we'll be able to answer those questions right away. Our team is amazingly supportive through this process. So the last thing is you're going to get the guidance, the support, the advice, and the help you need from our metabolic coaches and our doctor or doctors. Our experience of helping people solve these challenges of 40 years combined, helping people navigate this stuff, I can pretty much guarantee you there's not going to be a problem that you're encountering that we haven't already solved. So you're getting to leapfrog through success a lot faster because we're helping guiding you around all the pitfalls and mistakes and misinformation that people can get caught up in. So that guidance starts out at what we call success visits every 2 weeks. So we're literally going to have either a phone call or an in-office visit every 2 weeks. Excuse me. And those will be every 2 weeks until we switch them to once a month. And sometimes we'll go back to every 2 weeks. It's really what this person needs. And then being able to contact any other time that you need us, right? So lots of support, lots of guidance, and we're going to help navigate those challenges that you're going to bump into as you're starting to change things. So 2020, is it a time for transformation? That's what the T40 kind of program is about, right? So do you want to, detox from the COVID-19? I had a practice member that was in a week ago, and he's like, yeah, the COVID-19 pounds, right? From all the laying around and eating and not being real active. So do you need to reset from this time in life? Do you need to just lose a few pounds, right? Maybe kind of this New Year's resolution you started off not quite going as planned. Maybe you fell off that train already. And maybe it's that you need to be ready for a trip or maybe for a wedding or something like that, as we start to re-engage in kind of normal life or a new normal life again. Do you want to show up to work and be, transform for your coworkers? So these are all great ideas and things that are possible with the Activate Metabolics program. So our gift to you tonight is simply this. I have learned that procrastination is absolutely the thief of health. Every day a chronic problem exists, it becomes one step closer to being permanent. And that is so unbelievably true. We can't expect for us to neglect our health for 20, 30, 40 years and expect our bodies just to bounce back when we've decided it's time. We have to take action right away and not let these things go further. So if you're ready to start your journey, right? Well, what's the next step? Well, the next step is to schedule a one-on-one consultation with the doctor and our metabolic coach, right? And now we're actually able to do those in person, and we're actually also able to do them virtually. So we can double our person if you prefer to meet face-to-face, knee-to-knee with our metabolic coaches or one of our doctors, or if you want to do it virtual through like Zoom or all that. We have a HIPAA-compliant software system we use, so it's all secure and all that. But you have the option, is you can do it without even coming in. We can still coach you from here through at home or a remote location. Now, this consult includes a body composition analysis, which we're going to look at things like your body mass index, we're going to look at your body fat percentages, your hydration levels, your visceral fat mass, your metabolic age, all kinds of detail on genetic makeup, bone density, bone mass, muscle mass, all kinds of different numbers to get an idea where you should be and where you're at. And that body count is only for in-person consults, right? We can't do that, remotely, obviously. So sometimes people will come in and have the body count done every so often, but we'll do the majority of the program virtually. It's going to include a consultation with the doctor. It's going to include a complete health history where we get an idea, what are some of the stressors your body has encountered so that you may have this metabolic issue. And then you're going to get custom recommendations to meet your goals. Not everybody gets the same plan length. Everybody's got different goals. Everybody's got different physiology. And that's part of our job is to make clinical recommendations based on what your body actually needs to not just lose weight, but actually regain health. And then what are you going to do the rest of your life? Now, normally the consultation is $99. However, if you schedule an appointment tonight, it's free. So I'll tell you how to do it in just a minute, but it's normally a $100 consultation. And whether that's in person or virtual, it's the same fee. But if you schedule an appointment tonight, there's no charge for it. Okay? Now, this is how you take advantage of it. Right? Number one, you have to go to our website, right, which is lifealignedwellness.com. Right? When you're there, click on the contact menu item. So across the top of the webpage, there's a bar, and on the far right, it says contact. Click on that button, select the type of, select that you want to schedule your appointment, right? And you pick the type of appointment that you want, right? And there's going to be chiropractic appointments, there's going to be DNA weight loss appointments, there's going to be stem cell therapy appointments. Tonight, you want to pick either the in-person consultation if you want to come into the office and meet with one of us, or if you want to do a virtual consultation, then you select that one. So select the type of appointment you want after you've clicked the button, schedule my appointment, and then it's going to come up with the times available. So you'll want to select one of those times, and then you'll get a confirmation of that time, and then you'll get links to paperwork and all that kind of stuff. You'll fill all that out. Or you can go to our Facebook page and message us with the times that you'd like to come in, and we'll give you a call back tomorrow and help us kind of figure out a time that'll work best for you. So you can do it either way. Easiest way is just go to our website, because you can pick your appointment tonight. Now, when you do that, I'm going to see when that email comes through, or that appointment comes through. So I'll see the date and time stamp. So I'll know everybody that schedules tonight will get that complimentary or free consultation. So I'll know that there'll be no charge, and we'll make sure we write off that discount when you come in. So until then, though, I want to give you an assignment. Okay, so there's two things I want you to start doing. One is I want you to consider reducing your caffeine intake. Right? So that's coffee, that's sodas, whatever you're getting caffeine in, I want you to consider reducing your caffeine. Okay? Now, eventually we're going to a point where we don't have it, but I want you to just start reducing it. The second thing I want you to do is I want you to try and fast for 16 hours. Right? I want you to stop eating by 8:00 p.m. and I want you to make sure you don't eat anything until noon the next day. Go 16 hours without eating. Those are the two things I want you to do. Reduce your caffeine, right? And I want you to try fasting for 16 hours. Right? So now, if you want to stop eating at 7 p.m. and eat at 11, that's fine. But you want 16 solid hours. Now you can have water. You can have iced tea as long as it's unsweetened, right? It's got to be no calories, right? For at least 16 hours, right? So those are my two assignments for those who are interested in kind of taking advantage and starting their journey tonight. So again, kind of wrap up. If you're looking to detox from the COVID-19 pounds, or you want to lose just an extra few pounds, or your resolution isn't happening, or you want to get ready for the trip that's coming up or the wedding that's coming up, this is the type of program that helps people get there. There are short programs, there are long programs based on your goals and objectives, and that's part of the consultation. What that's for is to be able to make those recommendations and sort those things out. That's all I have for tonight. There is, for those of you who don't know, there is a chat button. I'll leave that open for just another minute or two. If anybody's got any questions, you can message me directly. You can either do it privately, or you can message the group. I'm just going to write "I'm here" just so everybody kind of sees it. So if you've got any questions, feel free to type it in there, and I'm happy to discuss them. For those of you who don't have questions and know you want to take advantage of the opportunity tonight, definitely go over to our webpage and follow those instructions of the Contact Us button, and then schedule my appointment, and then select the type of appointment, either in person or virtual consultation. And then select your times and enter your contact information, and we'll get you started on your journey. So very, very good. Well, I don't see any questions coming in. Great. That's awesome, Teresa. Make sure you go ahead and schedule that. Take advantage of that. Wonderful. All right. Any last questions there? All right. Well, I'll thank you very much. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about, and if you remember one thing about nutrition changes, nutrition is amazing in the way that the changes you make nutritionally right now, you don't have to wait for a payoff. You actually get the payoff right from the very beginning, and you make these changes within a few days. You actually get to feel better. Like it's not something that you have to wait for a year or 2 or 5 or 10 or 20 years for the payoff. You get the payoff right now, right? So and it continues to pay off. So I really encourage you, if you know you need to make some changes and you know you need some help, please reach out, and we'll love to help you guys. So good. I'm glad it was informative. Thank you so much. And I'll look forward to seeing some of you in the office, and have a great rest of the night, and take care.